On the day of the marriage alliance with the marquis's household, a young girl clad in a crimson wedding gown stepped into the marquis's residence before me. She told the young marquis, "Only those unloved are as lowly as a concubine. Even if you are the legitimate wife, there will always be a place for me in the young marquis's heart." Hearing this, I burst into laughter, turned around, and slapped the young marquis across the face, demanding, "Favoring a concubine over your wife, do you wish for the entire marquisate to be executed?" Scarlet silk billowed across half the sky. My bridal sedan chair had barely touched down before the vermilion gates of the Yongning Marquis's residence when, even before the curtain was lifted, a commotion erupted outside. The wedding attendant was about to help me down when hurried footsteps interrupted her. Through the curtain, I heard someone in the crowd gasp, followed by a sharp, triumphant female voice, "Make way. Everyone, make way." The curtain was violently yanked open, blinding sunlight pouring in. I instinctively raised my hand to shield my eyes. What met my eyes was another bride in an identical crimson wedding gown, embroidered with intertwined lotus patterns. Her skirt trailed along the ground, dusty from the rush. The girl, about 15 or 16, still carried a hint of youthfulness in her features, yet she held her head high with feigned arrogance. She strode past me, heading straight for the man standing not far away. That was my husband, the young marquis of the Yongning Marquisate, Xiao Jingyuan. He wore a crimson wedding robe, his posture erect and his features handsome, yet his face held little joy now, only a trace of bewilderment. Before he could speak, the girl threw herself at his feet, her hands clutching his sleeves tightly. Her eyes were red-rimmed, yet her voice rang out with conviction, "Brother Jingyuan. I'm here. I can't watch you marry someone else." The surrounding guests erupted into a frenzy, whispers and murmurs rising in waves. The marquis's servants attempted to intervene, but Xiao Jingyuan raised a hand to silence them. Frowning, he spoke with a hint of resignation, "Qing Yao, why have you come? Go back." "I won't." The woman named Qing Yao stiffened her neck, her gaze piercing past Xiao Jingyuan and landing squarely on me, as if declaring her claim. "Xiao Jingyuan, mark my words, only those unloved are as lowly as a concubine." She paused, a defiant smile curling her lips, then raised her voice so everyone present could hear clearly, "Even if she is your legally wedded wife, there will always be a place for me in your heart. I, Shin Qing Yao, am the one you truly wish to marry." With these words, the murmurs among the crowd grew louder. Some eyes turned to me with pity, others with the look of spectators anticipating a spectacle, while several old servants of the marquis's household wore expressions of sheer agitation. I slowly descended from the wedding sedan chair, casually tossing aside the crimson veil to reveal a face plain yet icy. The matchmaker beside me was sweating with anxiety, whispering urgently, "Madam, on this joyous day, please don't act impulsively." I paid her no mind, finding Shin Qingyao's words utterly laughable. Stepping before Xiao Jingyuan, I met his complex expression and suddenly smiled. The laughter was quiet, yet carried a chill that silenced the surrounding murmurs. Shin Qingyao froze, clearly surprised that I wasn't angry but had actually laughed. Before Xiao Jingyuan could speak, I raised my hand. A sharp slap echoed through the marquis's entrance. Xiao Jingyuan jerked his head away, one cheek instantly flushing crimson. He whipped his head back, eyes blazing with incredulous fury. "Su Wanqing, you dare strike me? Why wouldn't I?" I met his gaze, my voice as icy as frost. "How dare the Yongning Marquis's household, on the very day of the imperial-mandated wedding, allow an outsider to trespass and defy the rightful wife?" I stepped forward, closing the distance between us, my tone thick with pressure. "Xiao Jingyuan, do not forget, I, Su Wanqing, am the legitimate daughter of the general of the nation's mansion. This union with your Yongning Marquis's household was decreed by His Majesty himself. By allowing this woman's insolence today, are you declaring to the realm that the Marquis of Yongning's household favors the concubine over the wife?" I paused, my gaze sweeping over the assembled guests before settling back on Xiao Jingyuan. Each word cut like a blade, favoring the concubine over the wife constitutes grounds for divorce. It is an act that scorns imperial authority and corrupts the moral order. Now tell me, do you wish for the entire Yongning Marquis household to be executed, or to defy the imperial decree and meet a gruesome end? My words crashed like a boulder into the tranquil lake, instantly silencing everyone present. Xiao Jingyuan's face flushed crimson, then drained to white, then turned ashen. His lips trembled, yet not a single word escaped him. Qin Qingyao, too, was cowed by my presence. The arrogance faded from her face, replaced by a flicker of panic. Yet she forced herself to shout, "Jing Yuan, don't listen to her. We truly love each other." Truly in love? I sneered coldly, fixing my gaze on Qin Qingyao. Young lady, barging into a wedding banquet in broad daylight wearing a bridal gown, sabotaging another's union, is this what you call truly in love? With such shameless audacity, you dare speak of love? You're lying. Qin Qingyao cried, tears streaming down her face. She turned and grabbed Xiao Jingyuan's arm. Brother Jingyuan, say something. Have you forgotten our childhood promise? You said you'd marry me. Xiao Jingyuan looked into her tear-stained eyes, a flicker of hesitation crossing his gaze. Just as he opened his mouth, I cut him off coldly. Xiao Jingyuan, if you still consider yourself the heir to the Yongning Marquis, you should know the difference between moral principles and the duties of a subject to his sovereign. If you fail to handle today's matter properly, not only will I, Su Wanqing, refuse to accept it, but my father, the general of the nation, will never consent. I raised my hand, signaling the guards from the general's residence following behind me. Today is my wedding day. I had hoped to avoid bloodshed. But if anyone dares to defy His Majesty's decree and disrupt my wedding, don't blame me, Su Wanqing, for cleaning house on His Majesty's behalf. The guards immediately stepped forward, hands on the swords at their waists, their presence commanding and formidable. The faces of the guests present paled dramatically, and they all retreated, no longer daring to watch the spectacle. The Marquis steward turned deathly pale, rushing forward to clasp his hands before me. Young madam, please calm your anger. Young madam, please calm your anger. This was an oversight by the household. I shall have this woman taken away at once. Seeing this, Qin Qingyao wept even more fiercely, clutching Xiao Jingyuan desperately, refusing to let go. Jingyuan, you can't let them take me away. I won't go. Xiao Jingyuan met my icy gaze, then glanced at the tense atmosphere around us. His face flushed alternately pale and crimson. Finally, gritting his teeth, he forcefully shook off Qin Qingyao's hand. Take her away. Confine her to the west courtyard. Without my orders, she is not to leave. Jingyuan! Qin Qingyao stared at him in disbelief, her sobs turning shrill. The steward immediately ordered servants to step forward. They lifted the struggling Qin Qingyao and hurried toward the rear courtyard. Watching Qin Qingyao's retreating figure vanish, I turned back to Xiao Jingyuan, my tone as icy as ever. Young Marquis, I may choose to overlook today's incident for now. But let me make this perfectly clear, I, Su Wanqing, married into this Marquis's household as the legitimate wife. I did not come here to witness you entangled with other women. Henceforth, within this Marquis, I shall hold the highest authority. Should I witness such scenes again, do not blame me for disregarding marital bonds and directly petitioning His Majesty for judgment. Xiao Jingyuan stared at me, his eyes brimming with fury and humiliation, yet he dared not say another word. Gritting his teeth, he turned and bowed to the guests. My apologies for the spectacle. Let the wedding proceed. Watching his stiff retreat, a cold smile curved my lips. This arranged marriage was never my choice, merely a transaction between my father and His Majesty. But I, Su Wanqing, am no soft target to be manipulated. Having entered this Marquis, I shall tolerate no one testing my limits. Qin Qingyao? Xiao Jingyuan? They'll have their comeuppance in time. The wedding proceeded amid an eerie silence. The wedding maid nervously supported me, while the maids leading the way with red silk ribbons walked with unsteady steps. The guests' faces lost their earlier smiles. Whispered conversations were kept extremely low, yet fragments still drifted into my ears. The eldest daughter of the general of the state is truly not someone to trifle with. And the young Marquis too, why stir up trouble on such a joyous day? That Qin girl looked pitiful, but she shouldn't have barged into the wedding banquet. Favoring a concubine over one's wife is a grave offense. The young mistress was right, the Marquis's household is walking a razor's edge. My gaze remained fixed straight ahead as I stepped across the crimson carpet toward the main hall. The jade pendant at my waist swayed gently with each step, its faint chime the only distinct sound in the oppressive silence. Xiao Jingyuan walked beside me, one cheek still flushed, his neck stiff as a board, clearly still seething over that slap. Several times he turned his head to speak, only to be silenced by my icy glare. As we reached the main hall entrance, several elders clad in brocade robes stepped forward to greet us. Leading them was the second master of the Yongning Marquis' household, Xiao Jingyuan's uncle. A strained smile stretched across his face as he bowed his hands toward me. "Young madam, you must have endured a long journey. The incident earlier was due to negligence within the household. We deeply regret any distress caused." "Injustice?" I halted, my gaze sweeping over the assembled marquis relatives. My tone was calm yet carried an undeniable weight. The second master jests. "I, Su Wanqing, am the rightful wife of the marquis, personally bestowed by His Majesty. On this day of our grand wedding, an outsider dared to enter the manor in bridal attire, taunting me that without love, I am as lowly as a concubine. Should this matter be made public, it would not be my grievance alone. It would be an insult to His Majesty's decree and a shattering of the Yongning Marquis' household's dignity." The second master's smile stiffened. He stammered awkwardly, "Please calm your anger, madam. Qing Yao is young and ignorant. She acted in a moment of foolishness." "Foolishness?" I let out a cold laugh, lifting my hand to adjust the pearl hairpin at my temple. If she were merely foolish, why would she choose today of all days to storm the manor wearing a wedding gown identical to mine? Why would she blurt out such vile words about favoring the concubine and eliminating the wife? "Second master, as an elder, you should know that a ruler's words are not spoken in jest, and marriage is no child's play. This marriage was decreed by His Majesty to pacify the border and stabilize the court. It is not some private, romantic affair between Xiao Jingyuan and me." Shen Qingyao's actions, while appearing to be jealousy, are in truth contempt for imperial authority and a violation of moral principles. No sooner had I finished speaking than a cough echoed through the main hall. An elderly man with snow-white hair, clad in a dark purple brocade robe embroidered with python patterns, stepped forward. He was the Grand Elder of the Yongning Marquis mansion. His gaze fixed on me with solemn intensity, his voice carrying a weight of authority. "Young madam, while your words hold truth, today remains your joyous wedding day." Such outbursts are unbecoming. Qing Yao and Jingyuan grew up together since childhood, their bond is different. It was merely a moment of impulse. Why not complete the wedding ceremony first? Other matters can be discussed at length later? Discussed at length? I arched an eyebrow, stepping forward to meet the Grand Elder's gaze directly. "Grand Elder, as an elder of the Marquis' household, you should know the laws better than anyone. The Great Qi Code clearly states any man who takes a concubine as his wife shall receive 90 strokes of the cane and be corrected. Any man who marries another while already having a wife shall also receive 90 strokes and be divorced." Though Shen Qingyao has not been formally established as a concubine, her actions today have placed her in that position. She openly defies the legitimate wife. How is this any different from a concubine usurping the wife's place? Moreover, when His Majesty granted this marriage, he declared that the union between the Marquis' household and the General's household was meant to symbolize the unity of family and nation. If I tolerate today's events, tomorrow the realm will declare His Majesty's decree holds no weight, that the daughter of the General of the nation can be trampled at will. When the court trembles and border soldiers lose heart, can the Marquis of Yongning bear such consequences? The senior elder's face darkened instantly. His lips parted, yet words failed him. Xiao Jingyuan finally lost his composure, his voice heavy with fury. "Su Wanqing, don't push your luck. Qing Yao only loved me too much, she meant no harm." "Loved you?" I turned to face him, my eyes brimming with scorn. "Loved you enough to sabotage your marriage? Loved you enough to brand you with the crime of favoring a concubine over your wife? To love you is to drag the entire Marquis' household into ruin? Xiao Jingyuan, you dare accept such selfish, vicious love? You!" Xiao Jingyuan's face flushed crimson with rage. He lunged to grab my wrist, but I sidestepped him. The guards from the general's residence behind me immediately stepped forward, hands on their swords, eyes fixed on him with sharp intensity. Xiao Jingyuan's movement froze midair. Seeing the lethal intent radiating from the guards, he ultimately dared not move again. "Young Marquis," I said coldly, "I advise you to understand clearly, the woman you marry is no ordinary girl. She is the legitimate daughter of the general of the nation's mansion. My father commands a mighty army, guarding the northern frontier, not so his daughter could suffer such humiliation in the Marquis' household. The slap I delivered today was not born of jealousy, but to rouse you from your delusion. My tone softened slightly, yet retained its authority. You are the heir to the Yongning Marquisate, destined to inherit the title and govern a domain. If you cannot discern basic moral principles, if you cannot even manage your own household, how can you shoulder the weight of your family's legacy? How could you possibly live up to His Majesty's trust? The main hall fell deathly silent. The Marquis's relatives exchanged uneasy glances. No one dared defend Shen Qingyao anymore, nor did anyone dare urge me to let the matter drop. Their gazes toward me now held a new layer of apprehension and gravity. The second master sighed and bowed his hands toward me. The young mistress speaks with great wisdom. We have been short-sighted. In today's matter, Jing Yuan was indeed at fault, and the household failed in its oversight. We implore the young mistress to complete the wedding ceremony first. Subsequent matters, we shall certainly provide you with a satisfactory resolution. I gave a slight nod, choosing not to pursue the matter further. No one to stop, no one to hold back. This was the wisdom my father had taught me. Having gained the upper hand today, I had established my authority and made the stakes clear. There was no need to push matters to extremes before the ceremony. The wedding maid quickly intervened. The auspicious hour is nearly upon us. Let us proceed with the ceremony. In the main hall, illuminated by red candles, incense smoke curled gently before the heaven and earth tablets. Xiao Jingyuan and I stood side by side as the officiant proclaimed in a loud voice, "First bow to heaven and earth." I bowed according to custom, my peripheral vision catching Xiao Jingyuan's stiff movements and the lingering resentment in his eyes. I sneered inwardly. So what if he resents me? This slap and these words were merely the beginning. If he behaves himself, upholds his duties as a husband, I will respect him as the heir to the Marquis' estate. We shall coexist with mutual respect, preserving the Marquis' household in peace. But if he insists on favoring Shen Qingyao, if he dares to commit the taboo of favoring a concubine over his wife again, I, Su Wanqing, have plenty of ways to make him and that presumptuous Shen Qingyao pay the price they deserve. After the wedding ceremony, I was escorted to the bridal chamber. The wedding maid and maidservants brought the ceremonial wine, offering auspicious blessings, yet their expressions carried a cautious wariness, as if fearful of bringing me bad luck. I dismissed everyone, sitting alone on the wedding bed strewn with peanuts and longans. I watched the flickering red candle on the table, my fingertips gently tracing the jade pendant at my waist. Footsteps sounded outside the door. Xiao Jingyuan's attendant sought permission. "Young Marquis, shall we go in to check on the young mistress?" "No need." Xiao Jingyuan's voice carried a hint of impatience. "Let her be." The footsteps faded away, leaving only the crackling sound of the burning candles in the bridal chamber. I lifted the wedding wine from the table and took a sip. The fiery liquid slid down my throat, yet it failed to warm the chill in my heart. Life in this Marquis' mansion was destined to be anything but peaceful. But I, Su Wanqing, have never feared the storm. The red candle burned halfway down, its tears pooling at the edge of the candlestick like congealed blood and tears. As I stood before the bronze mirror, removing the golden hairpin from my hair, the door burst open with a loud slam. Xiao Jingyuan, reeking of alcohol, stormed in. His eyes were bloodshot, clearly drunk, and the red mark on half his cheek hadn't faded yet, adding a touch of ferocity to his handsome features. "Su Wanqing, what exactly do you want?" He seized my wrist with such force it nearly crushed my bones. "Qingyao is merely a pitiful soul, why must you pursue her to the bitter end?" I wrenched my hand free, stepping back to create distance. My fingertips gently rubbed the reddened wrist as my voice remained calm and unruffled. "Pitiful soul? Young Marquis, you've got it backwards. Today, the one provoked in a wedding gown, the one whose husband favors his stepdaughter, that's me. I'm the one who should be asking, what do you want?" "You." Xiao Jingyuan faltered, then stiffened his neck and declared, "Qingyao and I grew up together since childhood. She was betrothed to me by my own mother. Had her father not been demoted for his crimes back then, we would have married long ago." This statement caught me off guard. Though I knew this marriage alliance was politically motivated, I hadn't realized Xiao Jingyuan harbored such lingering affection. "Fiancé?" I raised an eyebrow. If she was your fiancé, why didn't the Marquis' household intervene when Lord Shen fell from grace? Now that she's returned, suddenly you remember she's your betrothed? Xiao Jingyuan paled, his eyes darting nervously. The circumstances back then were complicated. The Marquis' household had no choice but to. No choice? I scoffed. More like opportunism, I'd say. When Lord Shen fell, the Marquis' household immediately distanced themselves. Now, seeing the general's household's rising power and the emperor's betrothal decree, they gladly accept. Xiao Jingyuan, having weighed the pros and cons, you should have kept to your duty. Why bring Shen Qingyao into this mess? Caught off guard, he flew into a rage. Qingyao and I share a deep, unbreakable bond. Had my family not intervened, I would never have married you. You only secured your position as legitimate wife through the general's mansion's influence and His Majesty's decree. So what if I did? I met his gaze without flinching. My position as Su Wanqing's legitimate wife was personally conferred by His Majesty. It was earned through the honor of the general's mansion, open, above board, and rightfully mine. Unlike Shen Qingyao, who can only cling to old affections to engage in underhanded schemes, sabotaging others' marriages. Don't you dare speak of Qingyao like that. Xiao Jinyuan roared, lunging forward, only to be halted by a sudden cough from beyond the door. The Marquis' household senior elder stood at the entrance, flanked by several clan elders, their faces ashen. Clearly, they had overheard the entire exchange. The senior elder's voice was grave. Jingyuan. Cease this insolence. The young mistress is the emperor's personally chosen lawful wife. How dare you speak to her thus? Xiao Jingyuan turned to the elder, his eyes burning with resentment. Elder! Qingyao. Enough! The elder cut him off sharply. Years ago, Magistrate Shen was convicted of corruption and banished. Had the Marquis' household been implicated with the Shen family, we would have been utterly ruined long ago. The marriage pact your mother arranged long ago became null and void with the fall of the Shen family. Now that you and the young mistress are wed, you are husband and wife. You must uphold your marital duty and safeguard the Marquis's peace, not wallow in past personal attachments. I stepped forward, my gaze sweeping over the assembled relatives, and spoke slowly. Honored elders, I know Xiao Jinyuan harbors affection for Shen Qingyao. But personal affection cannot supersede the principles of propriety and ethics, nor can it override imperial authority and the law. My father guarded the northern frontier for many years, fighting bloody battles to secure the border's peace. His Majesty bestowed this marriage both to honor the general's household and to solidify the court's stability. I raised my hand, signaling an attendant to present a jade token shaped like a tiger seal. This token is a token of trust my father gave me, granting command over 3,000 imperial guards stationed near the capital. Father said that if I suffered injustice in the Marquis' household, I need not endure it silently. I should use every means at my disposal to protect myself. The expressions of the imperial relatives present shifted abruptly. Their eyes fell upon the jade pendant, filled with apprehension. The imperial guards outside the capital were elite troops directly under the command of the general of the state. Though 3,000 men might not seem numerous, they were sufficient to stir up turmoil within the capital. I, Su Wanqing, did not marry into the Marquis' household to engage in petty rivalries. My voice carried a hint of authority. I can tolerate concubines within the Marquis' household, but I cannot tolerate a concubine challenging the legitimate wife. I can overlook Xiao Jingyuan's past, but I cannot tolerate him favoring a concubine over his wife, bringing disgrace upon the Marquis' household. If Shen Qingyao keeps herself in check, confined to the western courtyard to reflect on her mistakes, I can dismiss her actions as a momentary lapse. But should she dare to stir trouble again, or should Xiao Jinyuan dare to favor her once more, I paused, my gaze sharp as a blade, I will immediately write to my father and submit a memorial to His Majesty, exposing the Marquis' household for its contempt of imperial authority and corruption of moral principles. By then, not just Shen Qingyao, but the entire Yongning Marquis' household might not withstand His Majesty's wrath. The senior elder's expression grew grave as he bowed to me. Young madam, rest assured. This old servant understands the stakes. We shall restrain Jingyuan henceforth and keep a close watch on Shen Qingyao, ensuring she causes no further trouble. Other relatives echoed in agreement. The young mistress speaks wisely. We shall certainly admonish the young marquis. Xiao Jinyuan stared at me, his eyes filled with shock and humiliation, yet he dared not erupt again. He knew I spoke the truth. The might of the general of the state's mansion and the emperor's authority were not forces the Yongning Marquis' household could withstand. I retrieved the jade pendant, my tone softening slightly. There is no need for such formality, elders. Having married into the marquis's household, I am now one of its members. Naturally, I wish for its stability. But stability comes with clear boundaries, no one must dare challenge my limits. The senior elder nodded, the young mistress shows profound understanding. It is a blessing for the marquis's household. This old servant will take Jingyuan away now and give him a proper lesson. With that, the elder gave a subtle signal. Several relatives stepped forward, half dragging, half persuading Xiao Jingyuan out of the room. Before leaving, Xiao Jingyuan glanced back at me. His gaze was complex, filled with anger, resentment, and a barely perceptible hint of apprehension. The door closed once more, restoring silence to the bridal chamber. The flickering candlelight bathed the room in crimson, yet it failed to warm the chill that lingered in my heart. What of childhood sweethearts? What of deep affection and loyalty? Before imperial power and influence, these were but fragile, fleeting emotions. Xiao Jingyuan might still harbor feelings for Shen Qingyao, but he dared not risk the fate of the entire marquis's household. As for Shen Qingyao, having dared to storm the mansion and provoke us, she would never settle for quiet submission. I lifted the teacup from the table, sipped the clear brew, and suppressed the turmoil within. From now on, I must not only safeguard my position as the rightful wife but also guard against Shen Qingyao's schemes. More importantly, I must make Xiao Jingyuan understand who truly deserves his reverence. This chess game within the marquisate has begun, and I alone shall command the entire board. No sooner had I seen off the senior elder and his entourage than a maid's respectful voice sounded outside the door. "Young madam, the Grand Dowager requests your presence at Rongan Hall." I smoothed my robe and tucked the jade tiger token close to my body before replying calmly, "Understood. I'll be there shortly." Rongan Hall was the residence of the marquis's grand matriarch and the very heart of the estate. Along the way, the servants bowed their heads in reverence at my approach, their expressions no longer carrying the earlier disdain or curiosity. It seemed the events in the front hall and the bridal chamber had already spread throughout the entire estate. As I approached the entrance of Rongan Hall, the matriarch's stern rebuke echoed from within, "You wretched creature. Do you know your wrongdoing?" This was followed by Xiao Jingyuan's muffled voice, "Granddaughter. I did nothing wrong." I pushed open the door to find the hall filled with a heavy atmosphere. Seated at the head of the hall was an elderly lady with silver-streaked hair, dressed in a dark crimson brocade robe embroidered with gold. Her face bore an air of authority, her gaze sharp, undoubtedly the dowager of the Yongning marquis's household. Several matrons stood solemnly by her side. Xiao Jingyuan knelt in the center of the hall, his back straight as a board, his defiance still evident. Noticing my entrance, the dowager's gaze fell upon me. She appraised me from head to toe before her tone softened slightly. "Wan Qing has arrived. Sit down." I curtsied before the dowager. "Your granddaughter-in-law greets you, dowager." With that, I took a seat on the nearby chair, maintaining a dignified posture, neither humble nor haughty. The matriarch sighed, pointing at Xiao Jingyuan. "Now, you tell me. Where did you go wrong today?" Xiao Jingyuan glanced up at me before lowering his head again. His voice was muffled. I just couldn't let go of Qingyao." "Couldn't let go?" The matriarch slammed her hand on the table, her voice rising sharply. "Because you cannot let her go, you dare treat the safety of the marquis's household and his majesty's edict as a joke? Do you realize that if not for Wan Qing's reasonableness and restraint today, preventing an immediate uproar, the marquis's household would already be facing grave calamity?" "Grandmother." Xiao Jingyuan lifted his head, his eyes brimming with grievance. "Qingyao truly is pitiful. If only back then." "There is no back then." The dowager cut him off sharply. "The Shen family brought their downfall upon themselves. The marquis's household escaping unscathed was pure fortune. The marriage contract your mother arranged became null and void the moment the Shen family fell. You are now the heir to the marquisate, a young marquis personally enfeoffed by his majesty. Your actions must prioritize the family and the greater good. How could you let romantic entanglements cloud your judgment?" She paused, her gaze shifting to me, her tone tinged with regret. "Wan Qing, today's events were Jingyuan's folly and the marquis's household's oversight. We have caused you hardship. Rest assured, the dowager will see justice done for you." I rose and bowed to the dowager. your words are too kind, dowager. Having married into the marquis' household, I am now one of its members. Naturally, I prioritize the household's peace and stability. Yet Qingyao's actions today were utterly outrageous. If left unchecked, she may cause further trouble in the future. You are correct. The dowager lady nodded, her gaze sharpening. That Qingyao, knowing full well Jing Yuan is already wed, dared to storm the manor in bridal attire to provoke us. She has not only lost all modesty befitting a woman but also shown contempt for imperial authority and violated the principles of propriety. Without severe punishment, we cannot uphold our family's honor, nor earn your respect. She instructed the matron beside her, go. Bring Qingyao from the western courtyard. Soon after, Qingyao was brought in. Her bridal gown had been changed, she wore plain-colored robes now, her hair slightly disheveled, eyes red and swollen, tear streaks still visible on her face, presenting a pitiable appearance. Yet when she saw me, a flash of venomous resentment flickered in her eyes before she lowered her head again, feigning fragility. Qingyao greets the Grand Duchess. She curtsied before the Grand Duchess, her voice choked with emotion. Do you know your crime? The Grand Lady's gaze fell upon her, cold as ice. Qingyao trembled, tears spilling once more. Grand Lady, Qingyao. Qingyao simply missed brother Jing Yuan so deeply. In a moment of foolishness, I committed such an error. I beg you, Grand Lady, to spare me this once. Foolish? The dowager lady sneered coldly. You stormed into the manor wearing a bridal gown, publicly provoked the legitimate wife, and openly invoked favor the concubine, destroy the wife. This is no foolishness, it was premeditated. Did you truly believe that a shred of past affection with Jing Yuan could shake Wanqing's position as legitimate wife? That the marquis' household would defy the emperor's decree for your sake? Qingyao's face drained of color, her lips trembling so fiercely she could not speak. Seeing this, Xiao Jingyuan hastily pleaded, Grandmother, Qingyao truly understands her mistake. I beg you, consider her youth and spare her. Youth is no excuse. The Grand Duchess snapped harshly. If she isn't severely punished today, she'll only grow more brazen tomorrow. This marquis' household has no place for such a shameless, lawless woman. She paused briefly before making her decision. Attendants, take Qingyao to the secluded mined villa outside the city. Confine her there for 3 years. Without my explicit command, she is forbidden to step outside the courtyard, and no one is permitted to visit her without authorization. What? Qingyao looked up in disbelief, her wails piercing. Grandmother, I refuse to go to the tranquil mined villa. I refuse to be confined. Brother Jingyuan, save me. Xiao Jingyuan, equally distraught, immediately knelt and kowtowed. Grandmother, Qingyao cannot endure confinement. Please, grant her an alternative punishment. How dare you? The Grand Duchess roared, this matter is settled. No more discussion. If you dare plead for her again, you shall be confined to the ancestral hall for 3 months to reflect on your actions and copy the classic of filial piety 100 times. Xiao Jingyuan froze, his movements stiffening. Facing the Grand Duchess's stern gaze, he ultimately dared not speak further. He knew the Grand Duchess always kept her word. To plead again would only invite harsher punishment. Qingyao watched Xiao Jingyuan dare not intercede for her, then turned her gaze to me, her eyes brimming with resentment. Su Wanqing. This is all your fault. If not for you, how could I have ended up like this? I looked at her coldly. Miss Shin, the path you chose was your own. Today's consequences are the result of yesterday's actions. Had you kept your place, how could this calamity have befallen you? Shut your mouth. Qingyao lunged forward like a madwoman, only to be held back by the matron beside her. Take her away. The Grand Duchess commanded in a deep voice. Qingyao was dragged out by the matrons, her sobs growing fainter as they receded, intermingled with cries for Xiao Jingyuan and curses directed at me. Watching her retreating figure, my heart remained utterly still. Such a reckless, arrogant person, if not severely punished now, she will surely become a great menace in the future. The Grand Lady looked at me, her tone softening considerably. Wanqing, today's events have caused you great distress. Jingyuan has been spoiled by me. I will ensure he is properly disciplined henceforth. As the rightful wife of the Marquis, you may take charge of household affairs. Your daughter-in-law thanks the Grand Duchess for her guidance. I bowed to the Grand Duchess. Your daughter-in-law will fulfill her duties diligently, managing the household without causing you concern. The Grand Duchess nodded, a satisfied smile touching her lips. You are a sensible and prudent child. The general of the state has raised his daughter well. The Marquis's household is blessed to have a young mistress like you. She then turned to Xiao Jingyuan, still kneeling on the ground. Aren't you going to apologize to your wife? Xiao Jingyuan lifted his head and looked at me, his eyes filled with complex emotions, resentment, bitterness, and a hint of resignation. After a moment of silence, he finally spoke. What happened today was my fault. I'm sorry for causing you distress. Young Marquis, there's no need for that. I replied calmly. I only hope that in future, the young Marquis will uphold his marital duties, prioritize the family, and spare the Grand Duchess and the elders of the Marquisate further worry. The Grand Duchess nodded with satisfaction. Very well, rise now. After a day of turmoil, Wan Qing was weary and retired to her chambers to rest. Jingyuan, come with me to the study. I have something to discuss with you. I took my leave of the Grand Duchess and turned to exit Rowan Hall. Night had deepened. Lanterns from the Marquis's residence illuminated the stone path, casting long shadows. Qin Qingyao's confinement to the Jingxing courtyard temporarily removed one source of trouble. But I knew this was only temporary. Xiao Jingyuan remained obsessed with her. 3 years of seclusion might not be enough to make him let go completely. And Qin Qingyao, with her nature, would never willingly remain confined in the tranquil-mined courtyard for 3 years. She would surely find a way to return and continue stirring up trouble. I drew a deep breath and tightened my grip on the jade pendant in my hand. The road ahead remained fraught with challenges. But I, Su Wanqing, was already prepared. As long as I uphold the rules, maintain my grip on power, and leverage the General's mansion's influence alongside His Majesty's trust, no one can shake my position. This seat as the main wife of the Marquis's household, I shall hold it firmly. Returning to the bridal chamber, the candle burned down to half its length. A faint scent of wax oil lingered in the air, yet it couldn't dispel the chill permeating the room. I slipped off my outer robe and changed into plain nightwear, sitting at the table sipping tea when the door opened again. Xiao Jingyuan had returned. Fresh from the grand lady's study, the wine haze had lifted from his face, replaced by a deeper gloom. After entering, he closed the door behind him, his gaze landing squarely on me, brimming with unmasked anger and resentment. Su Wanqing, are you satisfied now? He advanced step by step, his voice icy. Qingyao has been sent to the Tranquil Mind Villa, confined for 3 years. Is this the outcome you desired? My hand holding the teacup paused. I lifted my gaze to meet his, my tone calm and unruffled. Your question is peculiar, young Marquis. According to the law, Qin Qingyao's actions today warrant corporal punishment and exile 3,000 li. The Grand Dowager confined her for 3 years. That was already an extraordinary act of mercy. Why wouldn't I be satisfied? Mercy? Xiao Jingyuan sneered. You deliberately made things difficult for her. If you hadn't stirred up trouble before the Grand Dowager, how could Qingyao have ended up like this? Stirring up trouble? I set down my teacup, stood up, and met his gaze. Young Marquis, one must present evidence when making accusations. I merely stated the facts. It is you who persistently favored Qin Qingyao, disregarding propriety and ethics. Is that not wrong? I am wrong? Xiao Jingyuan's rage twisted into a bitter laugh. My only mistake was obeying my family's arrangement and marrying you, this venomous woman. Had it not been for you, I would have long since wed Qingyao and lived a peaceful life. How could things have escalated to this point? A peaceful life? I raised an eyebrow. Young Marquis, you seem to have forgotten that Qin Qingyao's father is a criminal guilty of embezzlement and perverting justice. The Qin family is already a house of traitors. Had you married her, you would not only have been ridiculed by your colleagues in court but also aroused the emperor's suspicion. At that point, it would be uncertain whether the Yongning Marquis estate could even retain its title. What peaceful life are you talking about? Stop using the emperor and the court to intimidate me. Xiao Jingyuan stepped forward, his eyes filled with fury. I know you're the legitimate daughter of the general of the state's household, powerful and influential, but you can't bully people like this. Qing Yao is so delicate. How could she endure the harsh conditions at Jingxin courtyard? Delicate? I scoffed. A woman bold enough to storm a wedding banquet in her bridal gown and publicly challenge the legitimate wife, you call her delicate? Xiao Jingyuan, have you lost your mind? You dare insult me? Xiao Jingyuan clenched his fists, knuckles turning white. Not only do I dare, but I'll tell you this, every punishment Shen Qingyao received today was entirely her own doing. My tone hardened abruptly. The Great Qi Code states any wife or concubine who accuses her husband, or his grandparents or parents, shall be sentenced to 2 years imprisonment, even if proven true. If the accusation is false, the punishment shall be increased by 3 degrees. Shen Qingyao's actions today, though not a direct accusation against me, constitute public defamation of the legitimate wife and contempt for the marriage contract, both violations of the law. The grand lady's punishment is already lenient. Had I truly wished to persecute her, a single letter to my father followed by an imperial petition detailing her contempt for the throne would have sufficed. Today she would not face confinement, but execution. My words poured like a bucket of cold water, dousing Xiao Jingyuan's fury. His face drained of color as he staggered back a step, clearly shaken by the consequences I had laid out. You wouldn't dare. His voice trembled, stripped of its earlier arrogance. Why wouldn't I dare? I met his gaze directly, my eyes sharp as blades. I, Su Wanqing, am the rightful wife of the marquis, personally bestowed by His Majesty, protected by imperial authority. Shen Qingyao's provocation is an affront to the emperor's authority. What is there to fear in cleansing the household for His Majesty? Only because today is our wedding night, I refuse to see bloodshed or cause undue embarrassment to the marquis's household, that is why I did not exterminate them completely. I spoke slowly. Xiao Jingyuan, you should be grateful for my kindness, and even more grateful that the Dowager Marquis is reasonable. Had it been anyone else, Shen Qingyao would have lost her life long ago. Xiao Jingyuan stared at me, his eyes filled with shock and apprehension. He never imagined I would not only dare to strike him, defy the marquis's elders, but also utter such ruthless words. He always believed I was merely a spoiled, arrogant woman relying on my family's influence, unaware that I possess a thorough understanding of the law and act with flawless precision. What exactly do you want? His voice was low, tinged with a hint of concession. It's simple. I held up my fingers, listing each demand one by one. First, never mention Shen Qingyao again, and certainly do not visit her privately. If you dare to disobey, do not blame me for being ruthless. Second, uphold your duties as a husband. Do not become entangled with any other woman and maintain the dignity of the marquis's household. Third, manage the marquis's affairs diligently and assist your father in court matters. Cease indulging in romantic entanglements. If you fulfill these 3 conditions, I shall treat you with mutual respect and uphold the marquis's peace. If you fail to comply, I paused, my tone turning icy, I shall immediately write to my father, requesting His Majesty dissolve our betrothal. Then, you will not only lose your lawful wife but also bear the shameful label of favoring a concubine over his wife, and the reputation of the Yongning Marquis's household will plummet. Xiao Jingyuan's expression flickered with conflict. After a long struggle, he finally bowed his head. I understand. Seeing his concession, my heart remained utterly unmoved. A man who weighs pros and cons, chasing gain while avoiding harm, is utterly unworthy of my concern. What I desire is nothing more than the dignity of the marquis's principal wife, the honor of the general's household, and the reverence due to His Majesty's decree. Now that you understand, you may leave. I said indifferently. Tonight, you shall sleep in the outer chamber. Without my permission, you are forbidden to set foot in the inner chamber. Xiao Jingyuan snapped his head up, a flicker of humiliation in his eyes, yet he dared not argue. He gave me a long, deep look before turning and leaving the inner chamber, closing the door behind him. The moment the door shut, the tension coiled within me finally eased slightly. I walked to the bedside, sat down, and watched the flickering candlelight, my mind clear and unclouded. This wedding night, meant for deep affection and shared intimacy, had instead become a standoff where I forced my husband into compromise. Such a scene might seem absurd, yet it was a necessity I could not avoid. Within these deep, sprawling courtyards, if one didn't employ some tactics, if one didn't hold firm to their own boundaries, they would only be trampled upon. Though Shen Qingyao was confined to her quarters, Xiao Jingyuan's affection for her remained, and the undercurrents within the marquis' residence had not subsided. I knew this was only the beginning. In the days ahead, I would need to be even more cautious and assertive to secure my footing within the marquis' estate, to protect myself, and to safeguard the honor of the general's residence. The candle flame gradually died out, and the first light of dawn began to appear outside the window. Though I had not slept all night, I felt no weariness, only a surge of strength within me. A new day had dawned, and my chess game within the marquis' mansion was just beginning to unfold. After Shen Qingyao was sent to the Tranquil Mind Villa, the mansion finally enjoyed several days of calm. I spent my days managing the household affairs, auditing the accounts, and checking in on the elderly servants, a fulfilling routine. Though Xiao Jingyuan remained aloof toward me, he honored his promise not to mention Shen Qingyao again. Each day he either attended to duties at the magistrate's office or handled affairs in his study, gradually assuming the demeanor befitting a young marquis. Yet I knew this tranquility was merely superficial. With Shen Qingyao's temperament, she would never willingly remain confined to the Tranquil Mind Villa for 3 years. And Xiao Jingyuan, though he dared not visit openly, might well harbor secret longing. That morning, as I stood in the courtyard instructing the maidservants on pruning the flower branches, the steward rushed over, his expression frantic. "Young madam, it's terrible." The young maid Chen Tao from the rear courtyard knelt at the entrance of Rongan Hall, weeping and claiming you treated her harshly. My scissors paused midair, a flicker of coldness darting through my eyes. Here we go. Harsh treatment? I set down the scissors and wiped my hands with a silk handkerchief. I've never had any dealings with her, what harsh treatment could there be? Chen Tao said. She said that yesterday, when you sent her to the storeroom to fetch brocade, she accidentally broke one of your jade hairpins. You punished her by making her kneel all night and slapped her more than a dozen times. Now her body is covered in bruises. The steward lowered his head, his tone filled with difficulty. The matriarch has already sent someone to bring her to Rongan Hall and requests that you come as well. Is that so? A cold smile tugged at my lips. Such a straightforward method of framing someone. Chen Tao is an inconspicuous little maid in the household, usually quite nimble. Why would she accidentally break my jade hairpin at this very moment? And why would she just happen to be seen injured? No need to guess, it must be Shen Qingyao's doing behind the scenes. Unable to act directly from the Tranquil Mind courtyard, she bribed the household servants. She intends to tarnish my reputation with accusations of mistreating them, hoping to sow discontent among the Grand Duchess and the senior members of the Marquis' household. Understood. I'll go immediately. I replied indifferently, turning to return to my chambers. I changed into formal attire and instructed my personal maid, Yunxi, to fetch a jade hairpin, the very one Chen Tao claimed had been broken. By the time I reached Rongan Hall, a crowd had already gathered inside. Chen Tao knelt in the hall, her thin robes clinging to her, tear-stained face bearing several red, swollen marks on her arms, looking pitifully vulnerable. Xiao Jingyuan was present too, standing nearby with a furrowed brow. His gaze toward me held a hint of suspicion. The Grand Dowager sat at the head of the hall, her expression solemn. Wan Qing, you've arrived. Chen Tao claims you treated her harshly yesterday. Is this true? No, Grand Dowager. This is absolutely untrue. I bowed to the Grand Lady, then swept my gaze over Chen Tao. Chen Tao, let me ask you, when did I ever send you to the storeroom to fetch brocade? And when did I ever punish you by making you kneel all night or strike you dozens of times for breaking a jade hairpin? Chen Tao's body trembled. She lifted her head, her eyes filled with terror, yet she steeled herself and replied, Young madam, yesterday. Yesterday at the hour of the snake, you instructed Sister Yunxi to tell me to fetch pink cloud brocade from the storeroom. I accidentally bumped into the shelf and broke the jade hairpin you had placed there. You flew into a rage, had me dragged away, forced me to kneel all night, and even struck me. Oh. I raised an eyebrow. You say I ordered Yunxi to instruct you to fetch pink cloud brocade? Yunxi, is this true? Yunxi stepped forward respectfully. Reporting to the grand lady and young madam, yesterday at the hour of the snake, this servant did not instruct Chen Tao to fetch brocade from the storeroom. The young madam spent the entire day reviewing the household accounts. She never used any pink cloud brocade nor instructed anyone to fetch it from the storeroom. Chen Tao paled and hastily retorted, "Yes. I misremembered. It was yesterday at noon when the young madam personally instructed me." "Noon?" I gave a cold laugh. "Yesterday at noon, I was discussing arrangements for the grand lady's birthday banquet next month with the second lady. Several matrons in the household can attest to this. Chen Tao, if you can't even remember the time correctly, how can anyone believe your words?" I was so frightened that I remembered the time wrong. Chen Tao's voice grew fainter and fainter, her eyes beginning to dart about. Xiao Jingyuan frowned and spoke, "Chen Tao, if you truly suffered injustice, speak the truth. No one dares bully you. But if you lie and slander the young mistress, the marquis's household will not spare you." Chen Tao bit her lip and suddenly burst into tears. "Everything I said is true. Young mistress, please spare me. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have broken your jade hairpin." "The hairpin you mentioned, is this the one?" I raised my hand, signaling Yinshi to present the perfectly intact jade hairpin. The hairpin was pure white throughout, intricately carved with intertwined lotus patterns, exactly the one Chen Tao claimed had been broken. Everyone present froze in shock. Chen Tao stared at the hairpin, her face instantly turning ashen. Her lips trembled, and she couldn't utter a word. "Chen Tao, look closely. Is this the one you broke?" The matriarch's gaze fell upon her, cold as ice. Chen Tao collapsed to the floor, tears streaming down her face. You've never even seen this hairpin, let alone broken it." I spoke slowly. "This hairpin was my mother's keepsake. I've always kept it close to my body, never stored it in the warehouse. Your claim of breaking it in the storeroom is pure nonsense. And the marks on your arm," Chen Tao trembled violently, unable to hold herself up any longer. She knelt and kowtowed, sobbing, "Madam Dowager, young madam, I was wrong. I was ordered to do this. I shouldn't have framed the young madam." "Ordered?" The Madam Dowager's expression darkened. "Who ordered you? Confess the truth." Chen Tao sobbed, It was Miss Shin from the Jingxing courtyard. Yesterday, someone secretly delivered a letter to me, along with 50 taels of silver, instructing me to follow the letter's orders, to falsely accuse the young mistress of mistreating the servants. They promised that if I succeeded, they would give me another 100 taels of silver and transfer me away from the marquis's residence to ensure my safety. "Xin Qingyao." Xiao Jinyuan's expression abruptly changed, his eyes filled with disbelief and a hint of unmasked disappointment. He had likely never imagined Xin Qingyao would stoop to such despicable means to frame me. The dowager lady slammed her hand on the table in fury. "Wicked creature. Utterly wicked. Confined to your quarters yet still restless, daring to manipulate servants to frame your lawful wife. Utterly lawless." "Dowager lady," I stepped forward, my voice calm yet firm. "Xin Qingyao's actions not only slander me but also defy the marquis's rules and challenge your authority. If not severely punished, she will surely stir up trouble again in the future. She might even collude with outsiders, endangering the safety of the marquis's household." The Grand Duchess nodded, her gaze sharp. "You are right. Attendants, go immediately to the Tranquil Mind courtyard and extend Xin Qingyao's confinement to 5 years. Effective immediately, sever all her connections with the outside world. No one is permitted to convey messages to her. Any defiance shall be dealt with according to household law." She then turned to Chen Tao. "As for you, for falsely accusing the mistress, you shall receive 30 strokes of the cane according to household law and be expelled from the marquis's residence, never to be employed again. Lady Xia, please show mercy." Chen Tao kowtowed repeatedly before being dragged away by servants. Xiao Jingyuan stood by, pale-faced and silent. The look in his eyes as he watched me was intensely complex, disappointment, guilt, and a deep sense of helplessness. He had likely finally realized that Xin Qingyao, whom he had cherished so dearly, was not the gentle, kind soul he had imagined. I looked at him, feeling not a shred of satisfaction. Such despicable tactics only deepened my contempt. "Grandmother," I bowed to the grandmother. For today's events, I thank you for your keen insight in clearing my name. Henceforth, I shall be more cautious in the affairs of the household, leaving no opportunity for those with ulterior motives. The grandmother sighed, Wan Qing, you've suffered wrongs. It was my own excessive kindness in not punishing Shen Qingyao severely that allowed her to become so brazen. Rest assured, with me here, you shall never suffer such injustice again. Your humble daughter-in-law thanks you, grandmother. As I left Roman Hall, Xiao Jingyuan followed. Su Wanqing, he began, his voice slightly hoarse. Today's events. I have wronged you. I never imagined Qingyao would. Young Marquis, no need for explanations. I cut him off, my tone cold. Your feelings for Shen Qingyao are of no concern to me. I only hope that after this incident, you will see her true colors clearly and never again be blinded by her, doing anything that harms the Marquis' household. Xiao Jingyuan looked at me, his mouth opening, but in the end, he said nothing. He only sighed deeply and turned to leave. Watching his retreating figure, a cold smile curved my lips. Shen Qingyao, you think such petty tricks can bring me down? How naive. The chessboard of this marquisate has never been within your grasp. The more you struggle, the quicker your demise. Next, I'll see what new tricks you have up your sleeve. After handling Chun Tao's matter, I understood more clearly that within these deep courtyards, beyond the general's household's influence and His Majesty's trust, the support of the servants was equally crucial. These seemingly lowly individuals permeated every corner of the Marquis' residence, privy to every matter great and small. Winning their loyalty would not only streamline the household's affairs but also allow me to detect potential threats in time. Early the next morning, I had Yunshi fetch some premium medicinal herbs and cloth from the storeroom, then personally visited the estate's senior servants. At the head was matron Zhang, who had served the Marquis' household for over 30 years. She had watched Xiao Jingyuan grow up and enjoyed the dowager's deep trust. Lately, however, she had caught a chill and remained bedridden. The moment I entered Zhang Laonyang's room, a strong medicinal scent filled the air. Lying pale-faced on the bed, she struggled to sit up upon seeing me. Young madam, why have you come? You're putting this old servant to shame. No need for formalities, Laonyang. Just rest. I quickly stepped forward to hold her down while Yunshi placed the herbs on the table. Hearing of your ailment, I specially had some premium herbs procured to help you regain your strength. Granny Zhang's eyes brimmed with gratitude, her gaze slightly reddened. Young madam, you've been so thoughtful. This old servant has only minor ailments. How could I presume to trouble the young mistress to come personally? You are a long-serving elder of the Marquis' household, having devoted most of your life to its affairs. It is only right that I come to visit. I sat down on the chair beside the bed, my tone gentle. The affairs of the household are complex. I shall continue to rely on your guidance and care in the days ahead. As we chatted, I casually mentioned Shen Qingyao. I hear Miss Shen used to visit the Marquis' residence often. How did you get along with her? Nanny Zhang's smile faded slightly as she sighed. Young madam, to be honest, that Miss Shen seemed delicate, but she had a truly unpleasant temper. She'd frequently visit the young Marquis here and would constantly bark orders at us servants. The slightest disappointment would provoke her to beat, scold, or berate us. Once, when Auntie Lee from the kitchen was a bit slow bringing her tea, she smashed a teacup over Auntie Lee's head and forced her to kneel for the entire afternoon. And then there was Wang, the storeroom steward, Zhang Nanny continued. She wanted a jade hairpin of lesser quality. When Wang tried to dissuade her, saying it belonged to the lady dowager and couldn't be taken without permission, she falsely accused him of theft. He nearly got thrown out of the estate. I understood perfectly. Shen Qingyao's harsh treatment of servants wasn't a recent development, but with Xiao Jingyuan always taking her side, no one dared speak up. So Miss Shen is quite the formidable character, then. I remarked indifferently. You bet. Zhang Nanny lowered her voice. She often skimmed off the servants' monthly wages, hoarding all the good things for herself. Many servants in the mansion suffered her abuse, but dared not speak up. Later, when her father fell from grace, she left the Marquis' residence. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. After leaving Zhang Laonyang's quarters, I visited several other elderly servants' residences, offering condolences or gifts of medicinal herbs, or resolving difficulties within their households. When a young maid's mother fell gravely ill and urgently needed funds, I had 50 taels of silver given to her. For the elderly servant responsible for sweeping who had trouble walking, I arranged for her to be transferred to lighter duties tending the gardens. Word of these actions quickly spread among the servants. Those servants who had previously held me in awe or watched me warily gradually grew genuinely grateful and supportive. Seeing that I not only lacked the haughtiness of a legitimate wife but also sincerely cared for them, they were all willing to serve me wholeheartedly. Several days later, while I was reviewing the estate's accounts, Liu, the steward in charge of procurement, approached quietly. "Madam, I'm unsure if I should speak of this matter." "Speak freely, Steward Liu." I lifted my gaze to meet his. "It concerns the West Wing." Steward Liu lowered his voice. After Miss Shen was sent away, several of her former maids remained in the West Wing. Yesterday, while making purchases, this servant discovered one of the maids secretly communicating with outsiders. She appears to be passing messages to Miss Shen and has accepted money from someone outside the estate. Oh! A flicker of coldness crossed my eyes. "Is this true?" "I dare not deceive you, madam," Steward Liu said. "I've already had someone watching her. Each time, she meets a stranger at the back gate. Yesterday, she even slipped a letter out." "Well done." I nodded. "Continue monitoring her discreetly. Don't alert her. Report any movement immediately. Additionally, investigate which trusted maidservants Miss Shen had while she was in the manor. See if any of them have shown unusual behavior recently." "Yes, I'll handle it immediately," Steward Liu replied respectfully before turning to leave. Watching his retreating figure, a faint smile curved my lips. People reciprocate kindness. Treat them well, and they'll willingly serve you. Shen Qingyao mistreated her servants before. Now, not only will they refuse to aid her, but they'll become my eyes and ears, ensuring every move she makes is exposed to my scrutiny. That afternoon, Xiao Jinyuan returned from the magistrate's office. Passing through the garden, he saw me chatting with several elderly maidservants. The younger maid stood nearby, serving tea and water, the atmosphere warm and harmonious. He paused, his footsteps halting momentarily. In the former marquis' residence, the boundaries between master and servant were rigidly defined. Rarely would a legitimate wife interact so familiarly with the servants. Yet I had shattered that barrier, earning their respect through genuine kindness. He approached me, his tone complex. "You seem quite at ease." "When household affairs run smoothly, leisure comes naturally," I replied calmly. Unlike before, when troublesome individuals constantly stirred up trouble, leaving no peace. A flicker of guilt crossed Xiao Jinyuan's face, but he offered no rebuttal. He glanced at the surrounding maids and servants. Their gazes toward me brimmed with reverence, while their looks at him carried a hint of detachment. He understood clearly that this was all due to Shen Qingyao's past actions, and the result of my recent kindness toward the servants. "You've done well." After a moment's silence, he spoke slowly. It was the first time he had ever sincerely praised me. I offered no reply, merely turning back to continue discussing preparations for the grand lady's birthday banquet with the matrons. Xiao Jinyuan stood watching for a while before silently turning and leaving. I knew the scales in his heart had begun to slowly tip. Shen Qingyao's true colors had been exposed, while I had proven my competence and character through action. This not only won the servants' support but also earned greater recognition from the senior members of the marquis' household. As night deepened, Yunshi brought a cup of hot tea. "Young madam, Steward Liu reports that the maid went to the back gate for another rendezvous. This time, she brought back a parcel." "Understood." I took the teacup, sipped it, and ordered, "Have Steward Liu detain her. Search the package and bring its contents to me." "Yes, madam." Setting down the cup, a sharp gleam flashed in my eyes. "Shen Qingyao, you think a few loyal maids are enough to stir up trouble in the shadows? You're mistaken. The marquis' residence today is no longer a place where you can act with impunity. Every corner of this estate holds my eyes and ears. No scheme of yours can escape my notice. This time, I shall see what secrets lie hidden within your parcel." Steward Liu acted swiftly. Within half an hour, he arrived at my courtyard with his men. The detained maid was named Xiao Sui, once Shen Qingyao's most trusted personal attendant. Now, escorted by 2 servant women, she stood pale and trembling. The bundle in her arms was seized. Inside lay a stack of letter paper and a small vial of white powder. I picked up the letter and unfolded it. The elegant handwriting was unmistakably Shen Qingyao's. The contents were nothing more than complaints about the austere life at Jingxin Villa, accusations of my heartless cruelty, and a plea for Xiao Chui to contact Xiao Jinyuan to rescue her. The white powder, identified by the estate's herbalist matron, was a slow-acting poison. Though not lethal, it would gradually weaken the victim, causing mental and physical decline. She wanted you to slip this powder into my food? I turned to Xiao Chui, my voice icy. Xiao Chui kowtowed frantically. "Spare my life, madam. Miss Shen forced me. She ordered me to slip the powder into your tea, saying that if you fell ill, the young marquis would pity her and find a way to free her." I dared not disobey, so I did as she asked. I let out a cold laugh and tucked away the letter and the powder. Shen Qingyao truly never learns. Failing to frame me, she resorts to such despicable tactics as poisoning. Just as I was about to have Xiao Chui escorted to Rongan Hall for the Grand Lady's judgment, hurried footsteps sounded outside. A maid entered to report, "Young madam, the general of the nation has arrived. He's in the front hall now. The marquis and the young marquis are already there." My brother has come? My heart stirred. It must be because I wrote to father a few days ago, mentioning the upheaval in the marquis's household. Father couldn't rest easy, so he sent my brother to the capital to see for himself. I quickly smoothed my robes and hurried to the front hall with Yunxi. Just as I reached the entrance, I heard my brother's deep, commanding voice, "Marquis of Yongning, I come today for one reason only, my sister, Su Wanqing." In the hall, my brother stood tall and imposing, clad in silver armor with a long sword at his waist. Fresh from the frontier, he still carried the aura of the battlefield, making the assembled courtiers of the marquisate hesitate to meet his gaze. The Marquis of Yongning and Xiao Jinyuan sat nearby, their expressions grave. As I entered, the sharpness in my brother's eyes softened slightly. He nodded to me. I stepped forward and bowed to my brother. "Brother. Rise." Raising his hand, his gaze shifted to the Marquis of Yongning. His tone was stern. "Marquis of Yongning, the Su family has guarded the border with blood and sweat. This is not how we expect our daughter to be treated in the marquis's residence. During the wedding ceremony days ago, Shen Qingyao barged into the mansion to provoke trouble. Recently, she has instigated others to falsely accuse my sister of mistreating servants, even attempting to poison and assassinate her. How does the Marquis of Yongning intend to account for these matters?" The Marquis of Yongning paled, hastily replying, "General, please calm your anger. These acts were all perpetrated by that wretched Shen Qingyao and have nothing to do with the marquis's residence. We have severely punished her and dealt with the servants causing trouble within the estate. We will certainly provide the young mistress with a peaceful environment." "A peaceful environment?" My elder brother sneered coldly, stepping forward with an imposing presence. "Being provoked on our wedding day, turning against each other on our wedding night, and now facing mortal danger, is this the peaceful environment you speak of? Earl of Yongning, my sister is the rightful wife of this marquisate, personally bestowed by His Majesty. She is no mere ornament to be trampled upon." He turned to Xiao Jinyuan, his gaze sharp as a blade. "Young marquis, I hear you remain obsessed with Shen Qingyao, repeatedly favoring her, even disregarding propriety and ethics, putting my sister's safety at risk?" Xiao Jinyuan stiffened, quickly rising to his feet and bowing his hands. "General, you misunderstand." "I misunderstood?" Brother interrupted him. "On the wedding day, you allowed Shen Qingyao to storm the mansion, humiliating my sister before all. Even after Shen Qingyao was confined, you still harbored feelings for her, giving her an opening to manipulate servants into plotting against my sister. These are facts. Where is the misunderstanding? The Great Qi Code clearly states, the primary wife holds exalted status. Those who favor concubines to the detriment of their wives shall not only receive corporal punishment but also forfeit their noble titles." His tone grew harsher. "Young marquis, as the heir to the marquisate, you ought to understand the gravity of the law. Your repeated indulgence of Xinqingyao and provocation of my sister constitute contempt for the law and contempt for my house of the general of the state. I state this clearly today, my sister, Su Mingyuan's sister, shall never suffer the slightest injustice. Henceforth, should anyone dare cause trouble within the marquis's residence or harm my sister, regardless of their identity or the power behind them, Su Mingyuan will show no mercy. Even if it means taking up arms, the Su family will see this through to the end. The words fell like thunder, plunging the front hall into deathly silence. All present were cowed by my elder brother's imposing presence. The general of the nation's mansion commanded formidable forces, guarding the northern frontier. Should they truly turn against the marquis's mansion, the latter stood no chance of victory. The Marquis of Yongning's face drained of color. He hastily rose and bowed to my elder brother. General, rest assured. Henceforth, I shall strictly discipline Jing Yuan and keep all within the mansion in check. I will never again allow the young mistress to suffer any injustice. Should such an incident occur again, I shall personally bind the perpetrator and deliver them to the general's mansion to beg forgiveness. Xiao Jingyuan met his elder brother's stern gaze, then glanced at me, standing calmly nearby. Finally, he bowed his head, his tone tinged with concession and remorse. General, I was in the wrong today. Henceforth, I shall uphold my duties as a husband, protect Wanqing completely, and never again allow Xinqingyao to stir up trouble. Nor will I permit anyone to harm her. His elder brother regarded him, his gaze still sharp. I hope you keep your word. My sister has a fiery temper, yet she is deeply loyal and devoted. If you truly cherish her and protect her, the Su family will naturally maintain harmony with the Marquis's household. Together, we shall assist His Majesty and stabilize the court. But if you dare break your word again, I will not let you off lightly. Yes, I will remember the general's guidance. Xiao Jingyuan bowed deeply, his demeanor respectful, all traces of his earlier stubbornness and resentment vanished. Seeing Xiao Jingyuan yield, the Marquis of Yongning exhaled in relief and promptly ordered servants to prepare a banquet to entertain his elder brother. But the elder brother waved it off, unnecessary. I came today solely for my sister's safety. Since both the Marquis of Yongning and the young Marquis have given me their assurances, I am at ease. Border affairs demand my immediate attention. I must depart tomorrow. I shall not linger further today. He turned to me, his tone softening considerably. Sister, should you ever suffer any injustice within the Marquis's residence, do not endure it silently. Write to me at once, and I shall see justice done for you. Thank you, brother. My eyes stung slightly as I nodded. With brother's backing, my standing in the Marquis's residence would only grow stronger. He bowed respectfully to the Marquis of Yongning and Xiao Jingyuan once more before turning and striding away. His back was straight as a pine, radiating an aura of unassailable authority that commanded the utmost respect from everyone present. After my brother departed, the atmosphere in the front hall remained heavy. The Marquis of Yongning looked at Xiao Jingyuan and said gravely, Jingyuan, you should understand today's events. The Su family and the general's residence are not foes we can afford to provoke. If you ever dare to act recklessly for Xinqingyao again, you will not only ruin yourself but drag the entire Marquis's residence down with you. Xiao Jingyuan nodded, his face pale. Father, your son understands. From now on, I will prioritize the Marquis and Lady Wanqing above all else. I will never speak of Xinqingyao again, nor allow her to disturb the Marquis's peace. He turned to look at me, his gaze complex, filled with guilt, reverence, and a barely perceptible warmth. Wanqing, I was foolish before, causing you such hardship. Henceforth, I shall protect you completely. I will not allow anyone to harm you again. I looked at him, my tone calm. Young Marquis, there is no need for such measures. You need only keep your word, prioritize the family, and uphold the law. Then I shall treat you with mutual respect as we jointly safeguard the Marquis's peace. Xiao Jingyuan nodded, saying nothing more. I understood clearly, my brother's visit this time was not merely to support me, but also to deliver a stern warning to both the Yongning Marquis and Xiao Jingyuan himself. Henceforth, they would never again dare to disregard my existence lightly, nor would they tolerate Xinqingyao stirring up trouble. Yet I also knew Xinqingyao would never give up so easily. Confined to the tranquil mined courtyard, unable to contact Xiao Jingyuan or harm me in secret, she would surely devise an even more vicious scheme. However, with my brother and the general's residence as my backing, the wariness of the marquis's household, and the support of the servants within the manor, I no longer feel fear. No matter what tricks Shen Qingyao may still attempt, I am confident I can defuse them one by one. This position of principal wife in the marquis's household, I intend not only to secure it firmly, but to hold it so steadfastly that no one can shake it. After my brother's departure, the marquis's residence fell into complete stillness. Xiao Jingyuan seemed genuinely transformed, diligently handling official duties each day. Upon returning home, he would proactively consult me on household matters. Though the warmth between husband and wife remained absent, a newfound mutual respect and understanding had taken root. The dowager lady placed ever greater trust in me, entrusting me with the management of most household affairs. Even the preparations for next month's birthday banquet fell entirely under my purview. Yet I never relaxed my vigilance toward Shen Qingyao. Steward Liu, following my instructions, continued to monitor the movements at the Jingxin courtyard while investigating the identity of the outsider who had been in contact with Xiao Cui. Within days, Steward Liu delivered a breakthrough. "Young madam, the man is named Liu Qingyu, son of the late Grand Censor Liu." Liu handed me a dossier. Years ago, Grand Censor Liu had impeached the late Marquis of Yongning, Xiao Jingyuan's grandfather, for embezzlement. The emperor had stripped him of his title, demoting him to commoner status. He died in despair. Liu Qingyu has harbored resentment toward the marquis's household ever since, secretly rallying former associates over the years to plot revenge. I opened the dossier, which detailed Liu Qingyu's movements and documented his interactions with Shen Qingyao. It turned out Shen Qingyao's father, Lord Shen, had been an ally of Lord Liu back then, and both were demoted together. Shen Qingyao and Liu Qingyu had known each other long before. Her recent provocation at the mansion wasn't solely for Xiao Jingyuan, she had struck a deal with Liu Qingyu. She would help him seize control of the Yongning Marquis' estate, while he would eliminate me, allowing her to become the true mistress of the mansion. Such collusion existed between them? A cold gleam flashed in my eyes. So Shen Qingyao's ambition extended far beyond being a favored concubine. What she coveted was control over the entire marquisate. And there was something even more crucial. Steward Liu lowered his voice. This old servant discovered that Liu Qingyu has recently been in contact with several military officers dissatisfied with the court. It appears they are plotting a military uprising. Shen Qingyao promised to assist from within the mansion by stealing the tiger token used to mobilize the private army. Steal the tiger token? My heart lurched. The Yongning Marquis' mansion commanded a private force, small in number but elite. The tiger token was kept personally by the Dowager Marquis, inaccessible to ordinary servants. Having resided in the marquisate for years, Shen Qingyao must know the token's hiding place. If she succeeds, coordinating with Liu Qingyu from within, the consequences would be unimaginable. This matter is no trivial affair. I immediately rose, prepared my carriage, and set out for the Tranquil Mind retreat. Xiao Jingyuan happened to return home just then. Upon hearing this, his expression darkened instantly. "You say Qingyao. She colluded with Liu Qingyu to seize control of the marquisate, and attempted to steal the tiger token? At this point, young Marquis, are you still willing to believe her?" I handed him the case files. These were all irrefutable evidence uncovered by Steward Liu, including her correspondence with Liu Qingyu and the details of their conspiracy. See for yourself what kind of person this delicate woman you've been so obsessed with truly is. Xiao Jingyuan's hands trembled as he opened the files. His face grew paler with each page, his eyes filled with shock, disappointment, and profound anguish. He had always believed Shen Qingyao had only committed those wrongdoings out of excessive love for him. He never imagined such a vicious conspiracy lurked behind her actions. No. It can't be. He shook his head in disbelief. Qingyao wasn't like this. You must have made a mistake. Whether it was a mistake or not, he would know once he reached the Jingxin villa. My tone was icy. Liu Qingyu's mutiny plan was imminent, we couldn't wait any longer. If they succeeded, not only would the entire Ho family be executed, but it would also trigger turmoil in the imperial court and leave the common people displaced. Upon hearing this, the dowager immediately summoned the marquis's relatives. Accompanied by guards, they set out for the Jingxin villa. Situated on the outskirts of the city, the Jingxin villa was remote and desolate. When we arrived, Shen Qingyao and Lu Qingyu were engaged in a heated discussion in the courtyard, their expressions agitated. Spotting our group, their faces paled. They attempted to flee but were swiftly surrounded by guards who had been lying in wait. Shen Qingyao, Lu Qingyu, you have the audacity. The Dowager Marquis trembled with rage, pointing at them and shouting, you dare collude with foreign enemies, plot against the Marquis' household, and orchestrate a military rebellion. You seek the execution of the entire Marquis family. Shen Qingyao's face was deathly pale, yet she forced herself to remain composed. Dowager Marquis, you misunderstand. Brother Qingyu and I are merely old friends reuniting. There is no ill intent. Old friends reuniting? I sneered coldly, flinging a stack of letters before her. These correspondences bore clear, black and white evidence of your conspiracy, how you plotted to seize control of the Marquis' estate, how you stole the Tiger token, how you coordinated the military rebellion. Still wish to argue? With their scheme exposed, Lu Qingyu threw caution to the wind and roared at Xiao Jingyuan. Your grandfather framed my father for embezzlement, destroying my Lu family. Today I will exact my revenge and seize everything from your marquisate. Qingyao, at this point, will you still help him deceive us? Xiao Jingyuan stared at Shen Qingyao, his voice hoarse, eyes brimming with anguish. Shen Qingyao looked back at him, a flicker of hesitation crossing her eyes before being replaced by ruthless resolve. Yes. I will help him. Xiao Jingyuan, did you truly believe I loved you? What I love is the power and influence of the Yongning Marquis' estate. Had your grandfather not framed my father for demotion, I would have been the young mistress of this marquisate long ago. It was your entire marquisate, that destroyed everything I had. My defiant intrusion into the manor wasn't to fight for you, it was to ruin Su Wanqing's reputation. I ordered Xiao Cui to poison her to eliminate that obstacle. My alliance with Qingyu was to reclaim what rightfully belongs to me. Shen Qingyao screamed hysterically, her face stripped of its former fragility, now twisted with ambition and hatred. Xiao Jingyuan staggered back a step, the last shred of hope in his eyes shattering completely. Staring at the hideous woman before him, he finally understood, his years of obsession had been nothing but a joke. Why? His voice trembled. We grew up together since childhood. I laid my heart bare for you. Why treat me like this? Why treat the whole family like this? Lay your heart bare? Shen Qingyao sneered. If you truly laid your heart bare, why didn't you stand up for me when my father was demoted? If you truly laid your heart bare, why did you obey your family's arrangements and marry that woman, Su Wanqing? Xiao Jingyuan, you and your grandfather are both selfish hypocrites. Enough! The Grand Duchess snapped. Guards! Seize these traitors! Take them to the capital immediately for His Majesty's judgment. Guards rushed forward, pinning Shen Qingyao and Lu Qingyu to the ground. Shen Qingyao struggled, snarling at Xiao Jingyuan, even as a ghost I won't let you off. Su Wanqing, don't gloat, I'll drag you both down with me even in death. Lu Qingyu glared defiantly at us, you'll pay. My men will attack soon. The Yongning Marquis' estate will be destroyed. Humph. Delusional. I replied coldly, I've already informed my elder brother of your conspiracy. He's mobilized the Imperial Guards stationed outside the capital to surround your men. By now, they've likely surrendered without a fight. Shen Qingyao and Lu Qingyu's expressions shifted abruptly, their eyes filled with disbelief. They never imagined their plan had been uncovered by me, let alone that I'd preemptively cut off their escape route. Guards escorted the pair away. Shen Qingyao's shrieks faded into the distance yet still echoed through the empty courtyard. Xiao Jingyuan stood rooted to the spot, his face ashen, eyes hollow, drained of all strength. He stared at the direction Shen Qingyao had departed, silent for a long while, his gaze filled with regret and anguish. I approached him, my tone calm. Young Marquis, now that this has happened, you should finally see clearly. Some people, some feelings, are nothing but illusions, not worth your genuine devotion. Xiao Jingyuan turned to look at me, his eyes brimming with guilt. Wanqing, I'm sorry. I was foolish. I misjudged people. I nearly dragged you down with me, endangered the entire Marquis' household. The past is best left behind. I said softly. Our immediate priority is handling the aftermath, reporting this matter to His Majesty and clearing the Marquisate of suspicion. The Dowager Marquis sighed. Wan Qing is right. Jing Yuan, do not blame yourself too harshly. This incident has laid bare Shen Qingyao's true colors. Henceforth, focus on building a life with Wan Qing and managing the marquisite's affairs. That is what truly matters. Xiao Jingyuan nodded, fixing me with a deep gaze brimming with complex emotions, guilt, reverence, and a barely perceptible thread of dependence. I knew this storm was finally drawing to a close. Shen Qingyao's conspiracy had been exposed, Lu Qinyu's mutiny nipped in the bud, and the marquisite's crisis completely averted. Yet I understood this was merely one of many storms to come. New challenges would arise in the days ahead. But after all I'd endured, I was no longer the vulnerable young woman who'd first entered the marquisate, relying solely on family influence. With my own wisdom and resourcefulness, I had defused the crisis, earned respect, and secured my position as the rightful wife. Now, all that remained was to await His Majesty's verdict, drawing a fitting conclusion to this farce. After escorting Shen Qingyao and Lu Qinyu back to the capital, I entered the palace alongside Xiao Jinyuan and the Marquis of Yongning to report the entire affair to His Majesty. Within the imperial study, His Majesty listened to our account, then reviewed the case files and evidence, his expression growing grave. He slammed the memorial onto the desk and roared in fury, unbelievably audacious. To collude with foreign enemies, plot a military uprising, and attempt to overthrow the marquisate, undermining the very foundations of the state. Your Majesty, please calm your anger. The Marquis of Yongning hastily prostrated himself. This tragedy stems entirely from my son's poor judgment in indulging Shen Qingyao, which allowed Lu Qinyu to exploit the opportunity and nearly caused a catastrophe. Your servant humbly begs the Emperor to mete out punishment. The guilt lies with Shen Qingyao and Lu Qinyu, it has nothing to do with the Marquis's household. His Majesty waved his hand, his gaze settling upon me as his tone softened slightly. The daughter of Minister Su proves both wise and resolute. Not only did she uncover this treacherous plot, but she also laid groundwork in advance to thwart a great calamity. She has served both the state and the marquisate with distinction. Your Majesty flatters me. My daughter-in-law merely fulfilled her duty. I bowed respectfully. Shen Qingyao defied imperial authority, and Lu Qinyu harbored treasonous ambitions. Both acts are utterly intolerable under the law. I implore your Majesty to render a just verdict. His Majesty pondered briefly before delivering his verdict. Lu Qinyu, for colluding with rebels and plotting a military uprising, has committed heinous crimes. He is sentenced to immediate execution, and his accomplices shall be punished accordingly. Shen Qingyao, for aiding and abetting the traitor, scheming for power within the Marquis's household, falsely accusing the legitimate wife, and poisoning the mistress, is spared as she was not the mastermind. She is sentenced to exile 3,000 li away, with a lifetime ban from returning to the capital. We thank your Majesty for this just verdict. We bowed in unison to express our gratitude. On the way back to the mansion from the palace, Xiao Jinyuan sat in the carriage, his expression calm yet tinged with a sense of release. Who would have thought it would end like this? He murmured softly, his tone heavy with emotion. What goes around comes around. I replied softly, Shen Qingyao was driven by ambition, Lu Qinyu by an obsession too deep. Their fates were choices they made themselves. Xiao Jinyuan turned to look at me, his gaze complex. Gone were the resentment and frustration of days past, replaced only by deep admiration and guilt. Wan Qing, these past days, it was all thanks to you. Had it not been for you, the Marquis's residence would have been utterly ruined. I was foolish before, showing you disrespect. Please forgive me. The past is best left untouched. Gazing at the street scenes rushing past the window, my tone remained calm. We are husband and wife, and above all, the masters of the Marquis's residence. We should unite our efforts to safeguard its peace. Xiao Jinyuan nodded, saying nothing more, but I could sense the ice in his heart finally beginning to melt. Upon returning to the Marquis's residence, the Emperor's decree swiftly spread throughout the capital. Court and commoners alike praised my wisdom and decisiveness. The reputation of the general of the state's residence grew even more formidable, while the Marquis of Yongning's residence received the Emperor's commendation for promptly exposing the traitorous faction and maintaining unwavering loyalty. The Dowager Lady hosted a banquet in the Hall of Prosperity for the Marquisite's relatives. During the feast, she presented the jade token symbolizing stewardship of the marquis to me before all present. Wanqing, from this day forward, the management of the marquis's household affairs is entrusted entirely to you. You are wise, discerning, and capable. Placing the marquis in your hands brings me peace of mind, and I trust our relatives share this confidence. Your daughter-in-law shall not betray the trust of the dowager lady and our kinsman. I accepted the jade token, rose, and bowed to the assembled guests. The jade felt smooth to the touch yet carried a weighty significance. It was not merely a symbol of authority, but a solemn entrustment of responsibility. Kinsmen rose one after another to offer congratulations, their gazes filled with respect. They understood clearly that without me, the marquis's household would have been destroyed in this conspiracy long ago. The person I am now is no longer the outsider who needed the general's household's power to survive. I am the mistress of the marquis's household, recognized by all through my own abilities. After the banquet dispersed, Xiao Jingyuan accompanied me back to the courtyard. The night was gentle. The marquis's household lanterns illuminated the stone path, casting the shadows of two figures walking side by side. From now on, I will consult you on all matters concerning the estate. Xiao Jingyuan's voice was gentle. Whatever you say, I will heed. I turned to look at him. His eyes held nothing but sincerity, stripped of the stubbornness and aloofness of days past. Perhaps, after weathering this storm, he finally understood what was truly worth cherishing, and who was the one destined to walk beside him through life. Very well. I nodded softly. I did not demand deep affection from him. As long as he upheld his duties as a husband, prioritized the family, and worked with me to maintain peace in the marquis's residence, that was enough. Day by day, the marquis's residence returned to complete tranquility, even more harmonious than before. Xiao Jingyuan diligently managed state affairs each day. Upon returning home, he would discuss household matters with me. Though we lacked the passionate intimacy of ordinary couples, we shared a mutual respect and trust as if we were guests in each other's company. The servants in the residence grew increasingly devoted to me, giving their utmost effort in all matters. The household affairs were managed with impeccable order. The Lady of the Manor's birthday banquet was a resounding success. Officials from court and countryside came to offer congratulations, all praising the marquis's household for its strict discipline and the young mistress for her virtue and grace. Occasionally, I would recall Shenqing Yao, her audacity on our wedding day, storming into the manor in her bridal gown, and her repeated schemes and plots. But all that had become a passing cloud, like dust scattered by the winds of time. Now, I held the reins of the marquis's household affairs. I had earned the dowager's trust, the recognition of my relatives, the support of the servants, and the backing of my brother and the general's residence. I am no longer the new bride who needed to establish authority through slaps or suppress others with rules. I am now the true mistress of the marquis's household, firmly in control of my own destiny and securely seated as the rightful wife. Standing in the courtyard, gazing at the garden in full spring bloom, a faint, serene smile curves my lips. This vast, secluded mansion of the marquis's estate was once filled with scheming and turmoil. Yet, through my own wisdom and courage, I navigated each crisis step by step, securing my footing. Perhaps this marriage began with politics and interests, but in the end, I earned respect, power, and a stable life of my own through my own means. For the rest of my days, I will continue to manage the household affairs of the marquis, safeguarding its peace and preserving my own dignity. As for love, it is a welcome addition if it comes, but I will remain self-sufficient if it does not. I, Su Wanqing, have never been a vine clinging to a man for survival. I am a solitary pine or cypress, standing tall and proud. This position as the marquis's rightful wife is mine to hold firmly, no one can shake it. The end.